Today we'll be discussing about the budget process in India. This is from SEC to legislative practices and procedures. To begin with, understand what is budget. It is an estimation of revenue and expenses over a specified future period of time. Now, budget is utilized not just by the government, but every individual has a home budget. The governments have their own budget, businesses have their own budget. What is budget? How much you are earning and what are your expenses, means how much are you earning, how much are you receiving, the money that you're receiving, and what kind of expenses or expenditures do you have to incur. So a budget is basically a financial plan about how you are going to balance what you're earning and what you're spending. So Article 112 of the Indian Constitution mentions about an annual financial statement, which is referred to as the Union Budget. It is a statement of the estimated receipts. Receipts here means the revenue or how much the government is earning from various sources, and the expenditure, which means how much the government has to spend. So what you are earning and what you are spending. This is the Union Budget and it is mentioned in Article 112 of the Indian Constitution. Now, budget is made for the period 1st April, which is the financial year 1st April, and it ends on 31st of March. So, the Union Budget keeps the account of the government's finances for the financial year, which begins on this date, that is 1st April, and ends on 31st of. So these are the stages of the enactment of the budget. First of all, the presentation of the budget, after which presentation of the budget where in the House of the Parliament, that is the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, then a general discussion, and then the following steps which we are going to discuss later. First of all, who presents the budget in the Lok Sabha? It is the finance minister. So after the finance minister presents the budget, a copy of the same is given to the Rajya Sabha and printed copies are distributed amongst the members. So everyone gets a copy of the budget so that they can get a detailed overview of all the provisions. The finance bill is presented to the parliament immediately after the presentation of the budget. So here we are talking about a finance bill. Now what is finance bill? Finance bill refers to the proposals regarding the imposition of new taxes, or if there are old taxes, if they have to be abolished, it talks about that, or it talks about modifying whatever taxes are already existing. So the crux of the matter is that it is the finance minister who presents the budget in the Lok Sabha, and a copy of the same is provided to the Rajya Sabha. And apart from the annual financial statement, we have the finance bill. So anything that has to do with taxes is dealt with by the finance. So after the budget is introduced in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, there is a discussion that goes on for 3 to 4 days. After the general discussion of the budget, the houses are adjourned. So for 3 to 4 weeks, the houses are adjourned for this time period. And what does happen in this time period? There are 24 departmental standing committees. Now if you all know about the committees, they are specialized bodies. Since the budget deals with matters related to the finance, it is the departmental standing committees that examine the entire budget. So every ministry, for example the defense ministry, the rural development ministry, every ministry will propose how much money do they want for their functioning, how much expenditure will they incur in a given year. So they will present demand for grants. So if you have to function, you will require certain money, you will require certain finance. So demand for grants is presented by the various ministries. So what do these departmental standing committees do? They examine all the demands and they prepare a detailed report. Since it is a specialized body, they prepare detailed report which is submitted to both the houses of the parliament. So after the budget has been introduced, it has been discussed, and it has a detailed report has been passed by all the departmental standing committee. What happens, there is a voting on demand for grants. Now there are two types of expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India. One is charged expenditure and one which is not charged. So what does charged means? For example, there are certain expenses. For example, we have our president who's functioning, we have our prime minister, we have Supreme Court judges. So all the salaries and allowances that they are getting, all the pension that they are getting, all these are also expenses of the government, but it is non-votable, means you cannot vote and reduce them. So these expenditures cannot be discussed in the parliament, so these are completely non-votable, and they are, this money is taken out from the Consolidated Fund of India. For example, if president is drawing a particular salary, that money is coming from the Consolidated Fund of India. However, it is an expenditure on which no voting can take place. Voting can take place on which kind? Demand for grants. What are these? The other expenditures. So apart from the salary and pension of the president, Supreme Court judges, these sections which are taken out from the Consolidated Fund of India cannot be voted upon, but other expenditures other than this. So if various ministries need a particular fund or grant to function, so they submit the demand for grants to the Lok Sabha, and it is discussed, after which the house votes on those grants. So here you have to understand that the Rajya Sabha has absolutely no power to vote on the demand for grants. So while discussing the budget, I would mention here that there are basically two major funds. One is the Consolidated Fund of India, which is mentioned in Article 266 of the Constitution. No money can be taken out from this fund except by the authority of law. And apart from this, we also have the public account of India. So all public money which is received by the government, for example, money received by the court in the form of fee, all of it goes into the public account of India. However, Consolidated Fund of India is a very important fund, and no money can come out of it unless law provides. So for taking out money, what does the government do? It takes out a legislation which is in the form of a money bill. So here you have understood that there are two types of expenditure. One is charged upon, cannot be voted. Then there is another expenditure which is voting on demand for grants. Now finally, after the discussion on the budget proposal and voting on demand for grants, the government introduces the appropriation bill. I told you that this bill gives authority to the government to withdraw from the consolidated fund. So no money can come out of this fund without the sanction of law. So the government introduces a bill, that is the appropriation bill. Now what does the appropriation bill contain? It contains all the expenditure which is charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India, and it also contains all the demand for grants. Now both these amounts are together mentioned in the appropriation bill, and the taxing proposals of the budget, as I had mentioned in the starting of the lecture, it is introduced as finance bill. Both finance bill and appropriation bills come under the category of money bill under Article 110 of the Constitution. And you know the process of passing a money bill. So it can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha, which means in case of money bill and financial matters, Lok Sabha has a upper hand, because the Rajya Sabha cannot even vote on demand for grants. It is in power exclusive to the Lok Sabha. So it can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha, and the Rajya Sabha can only make recommendations, and that too within a period of 14 days. If 14 days have passed, if The Rajya Sabha has no other power. It has to send the bill back to the Lok Sabha. It has no power of amending or rejecting the bill. The bill becomes law after getting the assent of the president. So this is how the entire budget is done. You have to see this video at least once or twice to understand all the detailed purview. This is it for today's lecture. Thank you.